Good morning. Welcome to Roland's webinar series. So now we're going to introduce Heath Luetkens. Heath is the technology director at CGS. CGS has been a great partner of Roland, and when we started the Roland Partner Series, we wanted to bring them in because they really make a big difference in the performance of Roland VS. There we go. So without any hesitation here, we'll turn it over to Heath. Okay, Heath, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. I have a brief presentation to walk through with everyone this morning, and then I'll kind of go into the product. The title of the presentation today is just going through from design to mock-up, composition proofs produced on the Roland VS. This is using Color Tuner, which is one of our products. The agenda for today, I want to go through who is CGS. I know you're very aware of Roland, but I want to make sure that you're aware of who CGS is. Go through a brief run through of some of our other products. Then we're going to focus in on ORIS FlexPack and show some of the functionality as well as the control within our software, what we can do with the VS and things of that nature. Then I want to step out of the presentation because sometimes presentations can get a little bit much, and I'll go into the software itself and kind of show you some of the controls and features within the software for running the Roland devices, mainly the VS for today. And then we'll kind of go through some questions and answers within this presentation. CGS is a color management company as well as many other things. We focus in on serving a global print market. Our roots started mainly in publishing, but we have reached and branched into many different facets of color production in print, as well as digital and also flexible packaging printing, and now extending into printing on the different Roland devices and other devices in the industry. So again, serving that packaging market from that design to creation, we do have products that do allow us to work with a design aspect of packaging. I'm focusing today mainly on the use of our Color Tuner software on output to the VS. Some of our history is the company originated in 1985 as a privately founded company, basically getting into design and layout production. Over the years, you can see a multitude of different things that we've done. We were the first to achieve a SWAP certification just before the year 2000. And then now in 2012, we've introduced a few additional products to our lineup. Within that, our key competencies here are we have our own RIP. We do have the Adobe Print Engine, so if there are concerns as far as that RIP technology behind the software, we are doing using the Adobe Print Engine for output. So it's consistent with other output technologies that are out there. The other piece is our color technology is an iterative color correction, and I'll explain what that means once we get further into the presentation here. We have a patent that's for that. That patent number is there, of course, and also the patent is pending in Europe. We also have certified our system for different output standards. These typically are going to some of the other devices. And working with Roland, we're looking at where we need to go with what's color standards for that as we move forward. But we also have our own digital proofing medias. I'll explain some of those specialized medias for the Roland device today. Then we also have some strong OEM alliances and partnerships with Screen, Konica, Epson, Azo, Roland, and others. And then, of course, the nice little line there, we are very nice guys in the industry. We like to support our clients and listen to our clients of what else is needed in the industry. Some of our products that we have here listed, the one that we're going to mainly focus in on is our Color Tuner Web product. We do have our Pressmatcher Web. So the ORIS products through the middle of your screen there, those products are our core competency products, which are our original products. The Pressmatcher Web is mainly for digital output devices. Certified Web is for measurement and process control, and of course our proofing medias. We also have products called Approve, which is an online collaborative suite, and then some different packager viewing applications as well as workflow utilities from RealView and RealPro. But again, we're going to focus in on Color Tuner Web today. So for Color Tuner Web, The tool itself has the ability to not only view, print, and certify. So what we have is there's also the ability to do some soft proofing within this tool. This is just generating a PDF proof that allows me to see a soft proof of the job prior to print production on an output device, as well as we can certify using, as I mentioned earlier, the certified web utility for verifying that proof's consistency. Because the critical nature of any mock-up or output is this consistency of color and its nature to match that over time. So from there, we want to walk into the color tuner interface, and with that view, print, and certify, we have different operating systems that we can connect to. The reason why we call the product Color Tuner Web is because we are actually sharing this out as a web page. It's not something that we're hosting for anybody or sharing it out as a web environment, but what it's done is that we have an Apache server on the server that we've installed on. It allows for other browsers to connect to that server to submit jobs for output. That could be even extended outside to the internet through your firewall for clients to submit proofs or files for job output onto your devices. So it gives a portal, either internal or external, for your clients or yourself to connect to output the jobs. There's no software on that end from a browser application. It's very easy to submit jobs, as you'll see as we go forward. And then also just the speed in getting that file into output. Some of the options, and I'll go more into depth once we get into the tool itself, I wanted to show the Roland. We have a specific tab when we're creating the cues for the output. We have a Roland tab. Within there, we have different settings that we can use. Those settings are for the different colors that are being output. Since the device is capable of doing a multi-pass output, we can use the different pass technologies and order those passes for that output. So as you can see on the screen, in this case, we have the CMYK outputting first with the white as the second pass, or the silver. If your job is not set up in that order, we could change that order by using the different drop-downs to define that. Beyond that, we also have the settings for those silver and white inks that we have within there. As some of you are probably aware, the Roland software needs that RDG white, which we can also use within here. We can extend beyond that by importing or adding any other white color derivative that may be there. So from a creative end, we're not limiting you to a one white name or anything of that nature. And plus, with that multi-pass technology and returning to that origin, I could do a couple different passes of white if I wanted to, or whatever I need to do for that output. The same goes for the silver. We can add any different color addition for that silver. And then once I go into our spot color library, I'll show you some of those options in there as well, because I think you'll be excited with those abilities too. The same happens for our cutting. We can add any color name. We don't just need to name it cut contour. It can be a die line cut, or whatever it may need to be within that file. So in the prep side of things on the queue, we need to define those items so that when we output, it is used within that output technology. And when we're outputting, we want to make sure we're using some media. We have developed some media that help us to extend the gamut of the device. We've also come up with a range of our XG inks. What the XG inks are is that extends our color gamut. It's adding an orange and green to the output of this device, allows us to make a larger color gamut. That's an option, of course. You can go with just the standard CMYK inks as well. Both ink sets are very good. The addition of the orange and green just extends that gamut a little bit further for you to understand that. The media that we have on our docket, just from an informational side, are some glossy paper, a clear film, an adhesive clear, a shrink wrap clear, a white adhesive vinyl, some silver film, and an aluminum film foil. So those are some of the medias, and we keep adding to our family of medias. We always look to our clients to help provide that information, what else is needed, so that we can keep adding to that. Any of the other medias, even offerings from Roland, can be used. These are just medias that we've tested on the device with our technology and been able to set up some standardized cues for the output. The extended gamut, as I had mentioned, adds in that orange and green, as well as optimizing the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Some gamut shots of that are showing the standard color versus a extended color gamut compared to a graphical output or just a large color profile. So what that allows us to do is cover the spot color library, be it a Pantone or specialized color library, a lot more. We've seen hitting around 90 to 95% of that Pantone library for output of color. When you really get into the oranges and green and some of those new brand colors that everybody likes to extend the gamut of, we're able to achieve those colors quite accurately on this device. Within the color tuner system, we do have built-in Pantone and HKS libraries. We do also have the support for our ESCO libraries too. That's one of the things that we've added in because of a lot of the clients that we've talked to. There's a need for that connection to the ESCO library colors so that we're not missing out on that information. We can also input in any specialized colors via measurement or value. We have the ability to iterate those colors, and I'll show that process a little bit further in the presentation. And then we can swap out different colors within there, simulate different registration, as well as print from 1-bit TIFF files. So if you're looking at screening files or doing a LIN output from an ESCO file, we have the support for that. Or we can even do a screen simulation using our internal screen.plus, which does a dot-proof simulation rather than going from that 1-bit TIFF data. And then, as I mentioned before, we have the ability to do multiple overprinting and then support for different whites and metallics. So the Roland device, we've learned over time as well, there's a UV device. We have the ability to also drive that. That's ideal for short-run production, as well as doing some other things on the client's own substrate. It gives it high ink density and simulates that flexo printing quite well. So not only are we supporting that VS device, but we also support the LEC or the UV series printers. Getting into the VS device, we really are supporting this from a mock-up and a replacement to some of the older technology that's out in the marketplace from a Kodak approval, Fuji Final Proof, whatever it may be, because we can simulate a lot of different colors. The cost of producing that is much lower. So that's been the market that we've really addressed and tried to focus in on, is that replacement for technology that has either reached end of life or has become a cost for a client to use. So I want to go into further a job queue setup just so you can understand how we create a queue within Color Tuner Web. So this is a basic walkthrough just showing the addition of a queue. So if I open up in my interface here, I'll explain it real quickly. Over on the left-hand side, we have our devices listed. Underneath there, we have our queues. So we're actually going to add a new queue to this. As we go through here and we go into our print setup wizard, we can then see we're going to go through a basic printer setup, do a printer calibration, apply our color correction of what color table do we want to match, and then also set up our spot colors. So as we move forward, we select our device, we name our color match that we're going to do. We define if we're going to use an external spectrophotometer for this device, and then we also have what's called a reference printer profile. That's a device profile defining the color capabilities of this output device. So I know the full color gamut of its output, so I can use that information further as we build our color match. So as we go forward, we would select that or have created a color reference printer profile. We would then define if we want to use the PDF print engine or the engine internal to our software from a RIP standpoint. We can go in and we're going to calibrate the device to that original reference printer profile, because if you have multiple devices, we want to have that common stake in the ground that states this is where I need to match to for my device baseline. So I want to pull these Roland VSs all to one standard output condition on this specific media. So that's what we would define and then calibrate that device via measurement. We would output an IT8 chart or a color chart, measure that in, and get our first data points for how accurate we are. As we can see, we need some improvements. So we go through and optimize that, going through our mathematical iterative color calculation, and then we would get our calibration numbers to where we feel the best match is to that original raw status point. Then we come in and we want to match our color table. Now this color table, we want to use our new color via an automatic color matching because that's our iterative approach and our most accurate approach to match color. Once we come into here, we would define, or would be defined for us, is our printer calibration file. Then here we would have our target ICC profile. This would be the target profile that you have from either press, from a client, or whomever you've received that information so that you can match to that on your output device. Then I would select my press test chart here, output that to the device once I click on continue. It would output that, and then we would have our first measurement result of our accuracy. Now you can see the numbers here. We have, 11.5 and a max of 43. Well, this is our first output. We haven't done any mathematical calculation yet. As we click on the next, we can look at our color gamut of where we're at. Well, that's why we have that large color variation, is because we're showing the large gamut versus where our achievable gamut is getting to. So we need to optimize the results. As we optimize these results, we'll see this calculation go through. The next phase comes in and we have our lower delta E. Now, of course, this was expedited for this presentation. We see a maximum of around 2 or 3 iterations to get this down to this number. But you're going to see a very good accuracy overall. We see then also the color patch that is that highest delta E in this case, so a 70 magenta cyan and 100 yellow and 60 black. So that's showing us that delta comparison. As I go forward, I look at my gamut constraints now. I've pulled all that information into that gamut size of that grackle or whatever that profile. Of course, dependent on profile, dependent on media, you're going to see increase or decrease in accuracy to that overall color match. As I go forward, then we need to set up our spot colors. Now, the spot color library uses that original, what we call an RFP, or a printer profile or media profile, depending on what RIB technology you've heard in the past, and I add in my Pantone library colors. As I do that, then I'm finished with my color match. I've added my spot colors in. So I'm, again, back in the software. Sorry for that. I'm not sure where it cut off on me for the presentation. I know I was in the settings for the queue, and I believe going into the settings for the job. So as I went into those settings for the job, I can define, just to repeat, I can define the different colors for that output in the different pass orders. And if I had to do another pass output, I could then return that print to the origin so I can then print on top of that color. So these are all the controls for the Roland. Hopefully everybody did see that spot color edit where we can actually go in for colors like in the 8000 series or an 800 series where I have a metallic need within that spot color. We can also add that color into our library of the spot colors for the use of that metallic inside of the spot color. So I don't need to recall or remember what that content of the silver was for that spot color. Now, as I was going into second stage was I was logging into a web browser, so I opened up Firefox here. I'm actually just going to a local host, which is the actual computer that I'm on, and I can pull up my devices. Now, in this case, I can only see the Roland LEC device. If I want to define for that, that user to be able to see additional abilities or different cues, I can come into the settings for this and add in that Roland VS device and all the appropriate cues. So once I do that and hit OK to that, give it a minute to catch up on your screen, I can then come back to my Firefox, and when I do a refresh of my screen here, we can see now that Roland VS device and those cues, as well as all the files, are within here. So if I'm looking at status or trying to find out where my files are at any computer within your organization, you can see that automatically by typing in the IP address and logging in as a user that has access to that. Beyond that, if you wanted to port this outside of your firewall for outside client access to get to this, you could also define what that access point is, as well as the privileges and permissions where they could only see the files that they submit or other things of that nature. So that's some of the options within Color Tuner and the different defined settings for that. So I have a multitude of different files in here. Those were submitted by dropping into this drop area, so you can see some different files as I open this up. So within here, this one has, for our paper output, a silver first as well as then our CMYK second. So I would define that setting different than the other ones that I had earlier, where I could actually come into the settings of this job, go to my Roland tab. I'm only going to output my silver first. So I define that first pass as being silver. And then my second pass being the color. And from there, I can shut off the white because there's no contained white in this file. It's actually going to print on maybe a paper media or whatever it may be. Now, if I wanted to, you maybe saw in this drop-down that I do have the ability to do my white and CMYK together, or I can do also my silver and CMYK in either a layered or a blended mode. Now, that's an option, of course, that Roland supports as well, and we've added that capability into our queues. Now that means that with the layered approach, the silver kind of leads the CMYK from that output technology, and then on the blended, they're printing relatively the same time. So at this point, that's mainly a walkthrough of our software and our technology without going into too great of detail into there without questions. But I wanted to kind of open the floor since we have about 20 minutes left on the webinar. Even with the technical glitch, I'm glad we could figure that out quickly. But I wanted to be able to answer any questions or go down any other path that somebody else may need. And one thing I am noticing is that I didn't mention the soft proof capability. I did earlier in the presentation, but this is where we can take a file and simulate a soft proof using Acrobat to open that file and view it with a color accurate monitor. So if anybody has any question, or David, if you saw anything that you thought may lead down a good direction for any other points to add, please feel free to add your opinion.
Yeah, to me, the strength of the CGS technology is that it brings the Roland to an entirely different level. You know, a lot of times our product is used for, standard signage where the color requirements aren't that specific. They're, they're pretty generic. And what these tools really let you do is make the printer, reach basically new applications you would never touch otherwise. Yeah, the benefit of CGS, our technology base, is color accuracy. If you're really in the market to create a true mock-up and a customer simulated output, you need to hit that color. The brand colors today are getting more critical. I think the packaging market, even sign market, is getting more critical of the color output and consistency of that color output on different mediums or medias when they output to that. And I think that's the important thing that our software brings, is that color management addition to an already good device that makes it even better. And then you add in additional ink control, additional medias, and you really can take that device to a true color accurate output device with all the right tools. At the end of the day, everyone's chasing the business that has the highest margins. As we have more and more competition in the digital printing market, we look for those applications that give us the biggest return. Typically, the applications that have the biggest return are also the applications that have the highest image quality requirements. These are the applications where you're going to be dealing with agencies, you're going to be dealing with national brands. The output requirement is high, but so are the quality demands. That's why we've really seen the use of CGS technology really take off, because people are chasing those applications. I mean, there's a lot of people that can print, welcome to Myrtle Beach or whatever, and you can put it on the side of the road, that's all fine. But if you really wanted to get into the applications, for instance, using some of the metallic technology or using the gamut expanding inks of CGS, you start getting the interest of those companies that really need that high quality stuff. and particularly agencies. And once they know you can do it, they'll come back to you again and again.
Absolutely.
Hey, now Keith, you've got another webinar in a couple of weeks, so part 2. Did you want to talk a little bit about that? I think we had that scheduled on the 19th.
Yeah, basically for the 19th, what we're going to go is, the whole design of a mock-up or even a package, right? There's a lot of brand involvement, especially when you get into that design aspect of that package. So we have a software that we're really pushing out in the marketplace called Approve. Approve is an e-collaboration tool. Within that collaborative tool, we have the ability to mark it up and add comments in a centralized hub out in the web for us to get information from our clients or internal people for creating that proper package or proper sign or whatever it may be, or graphic for that matter, that we're working on. From there, once a client is happy, they may even have the ability either internally or externally to pull a contract level proof to that Roland device, whatever it may be, or another device of output technology, depending what their goal is. So really it's a centralized hub of collaborating with a client or internal people to achieve that final output. So I know it's kind of like going a step backwards into leading in, but we wanted to lead with the Roland technology because I think it's important to understand the control aspect of what we can do to that device, and then show some tools that can be used up front of that, of how we can get to that right package before even outputting so many different proof iterations onto a device, so that we make sure we get our clients what they need.
As I mentioned earlier, this webinar is recorded. If you go to the Roland DGA website, you can go into the archive section of our webinars. You'll be able to pull it up and look at it. So a lot of these webinars tend to be so valuable, but at the same time there's so much information that's presented that if you want to go back and look at a specific topic or a specific area, you have the ability to do that and then pause and go forward and things like that. So it's often we get about 3 times as many views after the webinar than during. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to send us a message, and we will respond to you. Hey Heath, thanks very much. We will see you again on March 19th, and right 3 weeks from now. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for attending.